two big stories that are breaking this evening as we get new reaction to this report. And as we speak, the lawmakers are getting their first look, really, at this report that is expected to serve as the basis for articles of impeachment. It's going to be a big week, and we are just getting started. So stay with me here. Also, we await the findings of the origins of the Russia investigation. That's going to start rolling out next week. But that's why this is so relevant today. Former FBI lawyer Lisa Page has broken her silence, and the president tonight comes out swinging. Trey Gowdy and Newt Gingrich are here to react. First to Trey Gowdy, who in June of 2018 laid out his case that these two FBI agents, Strzok and Page, whose text messages caused a firestorm, he made the argument were acting with political bias. Watch.
The same Peter Strzok who wrote the bigoted nonsense of Trump. Trump's a disaster. I have no idea how destabilizing his presidency would be. We have the same FBI agent, Lisa Page, and the same FBI agent, Peter Strzok, working on the Clinton email investigation, the Russia probe, and on Mueller's team.
Former federal prosecutor and former Oversight Committee Chair Trey Gowdy joins me now exclusively. Trey, good to see you tonight. Thank you very much for being here.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So, Lisa Page is tired of being quiet. She said, I'm not going to be quiet anymore. I'm tired of, I get a gut punch, she says, every time I hear the president mention me at a rally or in a tweet. And she wants everybody to know that these were taken out of context. So I want to start by putting some of these up on the screen to remind everybody what these text messages said. Number one, Trump is not ever going to become president, right? Right? Exclamation point, question mark. No, he won't, answered Peter Strzok. We'll stop it. Then it goes on to say, there's no way he gets elected. That's from Peter Strzok. But I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event that you die before you're 40. So, Trey Gowdy, we still don't know, based on this article, what they were talking about, what that insurance policy was and what their plan was.
Well, I think we have an idea what that insurance policy was. We asked her about it. Remember, Martha, we deposed her when I was still in Congress, and it was some unusual analysis of whether or not to burn a source. She did not think Donald Trump was going to win the election in November, but when she says things need to be put in context, the word loathsome really doesn't need to be put in context. And when you say somebody will be a national security disaster, that doesn't need to be put in context. These texts have been out there for, almost 2 years now. So your viewers are smart enough to read them and know that the lead FBI agent and the lead FBI lawyer were both biased against Donald Trump. That's who was investigating him in 2016. I'm not sure how she thinks context is going to improve that.
So you had an exchange with Peter Strzok, who tried to give you some of the context of these text messages, and you kind of shut him down. Here's that moment.
It's important to take those texts in the context of how they were written and what they meant.
Someone may ask you that question, Agent Strzok, but I didn't.
What I can tell you is that text in no way suggested that I or the FBI would take any action to influence the candidacy.
That is a fantastic answer to a question nobody asked.
So they both say that when you look at the context that, they've been unfairly portrayed, that these text messages were about something other than they appear to be about. Why didn't you want to know more about that in that moment?
Well, I'd already spent a day with Peter Strzok before that public hearing, which is one of the longest days of my life. So I've already heard every explanation he has. And when you say we'll stop it, and you want to try to convince people that we really is not the plural for I, that he didn't mean we, he meant something else. I think his explanation to us was, what I meant by that was the American people will stop it. Now, granted, he's not having a conversation with the American people, he's having a conversation with Lisa Page. Martha, they were talking about impeachment before even Adam Schiff was talking about impeachment. Remember, Trump had just won in November, and they're already swapping reading lists, including all the president's men, and musing wantingly about impeachment. This is the same Peter Strzok. Keep in mind, he didn't want to be on an investigation into what a foreign country did to us in 2016. That wasn't enough for him. If it wasn't impeachment, he wanted nothing to do with it. So, again, put yourself in Donald Trump's shoes. You're being investigated. In fact, the investigation's begun by a guy
who says he can smell your supporters, will do anything he can to stop it. They think you're loathsome. They think you're an effing idiot. That's who is dispassionately investigating someone. No wonder he's got so little confidence in the FBI right now.
What about the freedom of speech? Because she says, look, this had no impact on my work whatsoever, but I'm an American citizen. No one can take away my right to say what I want to say when I'm offline and away from work. And that's all this is. It didn't impact my work at all.
Yeah, 2 points on that. Yep, she does have freedom of speech, and we have the freedom to reject what she said and tell her we don't believe it. But the broader point is this. I mean, keep in mind, Strzok and Page and the Democrat and the D.C. media's argument is, yeah, they were biased. Yeah, they said terrible things, but it had no impact on the outcome. In other words, Trump was treated fairly in the end. Now, contrast that with what Trump's going through with impeachment. Now the Democrats are saying, even though there were no investigations of the server or the Bidens, and even though the aid was released, they're now hyper-focused on the process. It's the phone call. That's all that matters. So to Democrats, all's well that ends well if it's Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, but if you get the aid and there's no investigation, that's not enough. It still may be impeachable just because we didn't like your process. That's duplicity. It's a double standard, and that's why the American people, I think, are completely unmoved thus far by the impeachment hearings of Chairman Schiff.
You've seen the GOP response to the beginnings of this impeachment process, which is rolling out this week. And just to summarize it, they basically say that the process is unfair. They say that they think this is an unimpeachable event, this phone call on July 25th with the Ukrainian president, and that President Trump had every reason to be concerned about corruption in Ukraine. They think the Democrats are setting a bad precedent. And here's what Adam Schiff just put out in terms of his response to the GOP this evening as they go back and forth. He says the minority dismisses this as just part of the president's outside the Beltway thinking. It's more accurately outside the law and Constitution and a violation of his oath of office. Your thoughts on that before I let you go tonight?
Well, what I think, Martha, I just celebrated Thanksgiving, got a big family. I haven't met a single solitary person in my family or outside my family whose mind has changed since Adam Schiff began these impeachment hearings. No one's mind has changed. So he's not going to be removed from office. This is not about removing Donald Trump from office because they know they're not going to be successful. It's about shifting it to the Senate where you can put people like Cory Gardner and Martha McSally and Tom Tillis in a really tough spot. If they can win the Senate, even if they lose the White House in 2020, then he is a neutered president. And I've always thought this is much more about the Senate than it is removing someone from office because they're not going to get a conviction in the Senate trial.
All right. Before I let you go, any chance that you're going to become the personal attorney to the president if they make a change in that office with Rudy Giuliani?
I would have needed to start a long time ago. Yeah, there are depositions to read. There's evidence to consider. There are witnesses to examine. They haven't even let Pat Cipollone or Jay Sekulow. Those are two really good lawyers. So the president has two really good lawyers. They haven't let them participate in it. I was an average lawyer, but I did it for a long time, and I need to participate to be able to effectively represent someone. You can't do it starting on January the 1st, going to a trial on January the 4th. You just can't do it.
Trey Gowdy, we'll be seeing you soon. Thank you very much. Good to see you tonight.
Yes, ma'am.